Welcome to Sitting with Kings, the show where we have powerful conversations with Reclaim Your Inner Throne alumni. My name is Eivind Figenschou, your host and the founder of this world-leading men's initiation. Over the last several years, my team and I have had the great privilege to support some truly remarkable men in becoming evolutionary entrepreneurs who serve the world with their gifts. In this show, we dig into their struggles and breakthroughs as they pursue their path of purpose to bring about a better world for us all. Allow these conversations to inspire you to uplevel your life as we now go Sitting with Kings.
You don't take a child and give that child a flamethrower because the child is not equipped to handle a flamethrower. Yeah. Fire can be very, very useful, but fire in the wrong hands can be extremely destructive. Despite my apparent success, I've also been the target of some really, really negative remarks and nasty things. But, it comes with the territory, I suppose. Yeah. You can't please everyone all the time. Plus, I discovered things which will definitely make your relationships unsuccessful. And what really struck me is that very few people had been taught these skills.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the Sitting with Kings show, where we have powerful conversations with Reclaim Your Inner Throne alumni. I am Eivind Figenschou. I am the founder of Reclaim Your Inner Throne, which is a powerful 3-month initiation for men and also an organization of men's work. I'm sat here with my friend, alumni, Tony Fonderson, an absolute badass, and I'm so excited to have you here today, Tony. And you are an author, a mentor, and a speaker, and you're currently writing From Struggling to Cuddling, the 5 essential steps to stronger, more loving, and happier relationships. Is that accurate? Is there anything you would like to add to this?
Indeed. From Struggling to Cuddling, and it's about 5 essential steps to make your relationships much better. Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your loved one, and your relationship with the society.
I'm so excited you're doing this work, and we'll dive into your work and your life and also a little bit about your Reclaim Your Inner Throne experience in this time that we have together today. So thank you so much for coming, Tony. Let's dive into this.
Great.
So what we find on Reclaim Your Inner Throne is that men join us at a very powerful juncture in their life. There is something very particular going on, maybe a particular challenge. So it's a very fertile part of their life, fertile soil for change. So can you tell us a little bit about your life at the time of joining round 10 of Reclaim Your Inner Throne?
Indeed, yeah. At the time of joining round 10, I was coming at the end of one very, very important cycle in my life. I've been working since I was 22 years old. So I've been in professional life. I'm an engineer. And I come to the end of a 28-year cycle, and it was time for me to actually transition to do something else. And I spent a large part of 2018 trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. And I knew that I had a message and a story, and I knew that I had to connect with certain people who wanted to hear what I had to say. So at the end of December 2018, everything was ready. I decided to write this book, From Struggling to Cuddling, and I was gathering all of my material. And I wanted to bring something that was quite primal, something that was quite deeply from my essence. And I needed a way to bring all of my masculine gifts and as well to go and mine my masculine shadow. And in searching for the best resource to do this, I found Reclaim Your Inner Throne. And I've been a great admirer of your work when you were doing masculinity movies a couple of years ago. And Reclaim Your Inner Throne came into my life just at the right time. So I thought, excellent. 2019, I'm going to start the year bringing all of my masculine skills and gifts in the right way to myself and to my public. And we started round 10 together.
Awesome. Great. I'm seeing that we have a little bit of a lag, a little bit of delay on your video, Tony. So if you viewers should have that problem, then sorry about that. But it's definitely workable. So let's just continue. Yeah. So Tony, you are from Cameroon, are you
Yes.
not? Or your
Yes.
lineage is from Cameroon?
Yes. I was born in the UK, but my parents come from Cameroon, and
Yeah.
I went back to Africa after being in Europe. After I think I was 6 years old when I went back to Cameroon. I stayed there up until the end of my high school. So I spent my adolescence, my puberty, and my teenage years in Cameroon, in Africa, in West Africa. And Cameroon is a very, very unique country because
Wow.
it's got both a French colonial heritage as well as an English-speaking colonial heritage. So it's bilingual. They have both the Anglophone and the Francophone cultures. And I come from the
Mm.
English part of the country, but I live in the French-speaking part of the country. So I was brought up,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
in a bilingual environment where we spoke both English and French from the time I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow, that's very unique. So you've sort of had one foot in each world, or in three different worlds, actually.
Yeah, it's very, very multicultural. In Cameroon itself,
Yeah.
200 different tribes. We have over 206 native Cameroonian languages, plus the English
Mm.
culture, plus the French culture. So it really is a melting pot. It's called Africa in miniature.
Wow.
So you see many, many different facets of life when you grow up and when you have to interact with people who have such a rich cultural diversity.
Yeah. And Hannah, how has your heritage? We do a lot of powerful lineage work together on Reclaiming Your Throne, and you've shared a little bit, but I'd love for you to share with the viewers here today. How has your unique heritage and lineage and childhood impacted your life and work?
Well, it's been quite paradoxical because I was born in Europe, but I spent my formative years in Africa. So I really, really feel African. And yet I'm extremely familiar with the Western point of view from the educational system, from my professional life, lots of my friends. But there
Yeah.
is a difference between Africa and anywhere else in the world. I mean, if you have a chance to go to Africa, if you step out of the plane, you'll notice the vibrancy of the colors, you'll notice the heat, you'll notice the environments, the temperatures, the smells, the sounds. It seems as if 1 second in Africa is different from 1 second anywhere else on the planet. And I've been to many, many
Wow.
different countries. There's something ancient and yet vibrant and modern interwoven in the African people. And
Mm.
have, I don't know, there's a certain frequency at which our energetic bodies vibrate, which is a little bit different than elsewhere in the world. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. And
Mm.
that has informed me a lot in my education, in my worldview, and in the way I go about interacting with other people in the world.
Mm.
And if you have such a rich cultural heritage to draw from, you notice certain patterns. And in certain things, Africans are very, very different, even amongst Africa. There are over 54 countries in Africa. So I don't want to give the impression that Africa is one uniform, homogeneous
Understood.
culture. It isn't. But there are many, many things that tie us together. And the interesting thing is that there are cultural archetypal patterns which are exactly the same, identical all over the world, whether you come from Greenland, whether you come from Australia, whether you come from South America, whether you come from Europe or Africa. There are certain challenges that we all face, and that's our shared common human heritage. How we express ourselves and how we react and respond to those challenges may differ, but the challenges are essentially the same. And it's really been interesting to see and to have the opportunity to see how people deal with the same aspects in different parts of the world. And I consider myself very, very blessed to have actually lived that.
Yeah, to have had that lens from early on must have given you a very unique outlook on life, and I'm sure is enriching your work to this day.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. So So you're now writing this book, From Struggling to Cuddling. Great title, by the way. I just smile every time I hear it. And I totally know what that journey was in my life. And I think a lot of people will. What started you out on the journey of writing that book?
In a nutshell, pain. It was born out of my experiences in the longest, most intense love relationship I had in my life. I got married to my high school sweetheart. We were married for 11 years and we had two very, very beautiful children. And we went through every single spectrum of emotion, from shyness, infatuation, joy, laughter, to extreme pain, challenges, doubts. And unfortunately, our marriage ended after 12 years. And it was a very, 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 very difficult period for myself. And I was brokenhearted at the end of that experience. And originally, I wanted to try and find out how something which started so beautifully, with so much hope and with such good vibes, could have ended tragically in so much pain and so much tears and so much sorrow. So I started really looking at basically what were the things that I should have known when I was in the relationship that I didn't know. What did I do that I shouldn't have done? And I discovered through my research a whole new world about things which can make your relationships successful. That's a possibility. Plus, I discovered things which will definitely make your relationships unsuccessful. And what really struck me is that very few people had been taught these skills.
Wow.
Yeah, we're taught all sorts of skills at school. We're taught all sorts of things. We go to school for 15, 16 years of our lives. We're taught all sorts of information. But relationship skills, intimacy skills, how to get on well with people who you love, and how to actually nurture that love and actually make it grow and to maintain it throughout the years, that's something which I don't think society actually equips us very well with. And so I wanted to share the results of my many, many years of investigation and research in this book called From Struggling to Cuddling.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess this is the work that you want to bring to the world.
Yes, indeed. It's. I think that it's very, very important for us to be able to be intimate, not only with other people, but also with ourselves. Actually, intimacy starts from within. And we need to be able to have a good relationship with ourselves. Human beings are multifaceted, complex creatures. And we must have a good relationship with ourselves, and then from there have a relationship with other people. And I believe that that's one of the best ways for you to be a fully functional and healthy and productive human being in today's society.
Yeah, you have your work cut out for you, I would say. There's a lot of flux in this arena right now between men and women and between different people and different ideologies. And
Indeed, there's a lot of misunderstanding, and the tragic thing is that we all want the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to love. Everybody wants to bring the best of themselves to the table. I believe that as human beings, we all want to share, and I believe that as human beings, we recognize that coming together productively is much better than us being isolated and staying apart.
Yeah.
The question: how do we do this in a win-win way, in a way where our needs and our values can all be recognized, acknowledged, cherished, and negotiated? And that's the real challenge that we face in adulthood. And I think that in order for us to succeed in this, it pays for us to actually invest a bit of our time to actually educate ourselves, to equip ourselves, so that we can start a discussion. Improve the world that way, rather than us imposing our views on one another, which never will.
And it seems to me like you're tuning into a very crucial dynamic or theme, if you will, of polarity, that you have a man and a woman, mostly. There could be a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, or but there is this meeting of polarity that typically happens, even in single sex relationships.
Indeed.
And that you have to mediate like a plus and a minus, if you will. You need to make these come together in something that approximates a union or beauty, as opposed to something right. And in that, I think that the work that you're doing with your relationship work is very closely aligned with this idea that we're working with and Reclaiming the Throne of unifying the field between the lover and the warrior, bridging that. And I think, is it fair to say that that was one of the most important things for you in your journey?
Absolutely. I really love the way that Reclaim Your Inner Throne actually navigates the whole journey and the whole tension between individuality and harmony, basically. You have the warrior pole, which is much more concerned with, being autonomous, being individual, and striking up on its own. And then you have the lover pole, which is much more synergistic, much more community-based, much more dealing with intimacy and union.
Yes.
And that tension between union and independence, and to actually mediate that in order to create interdependence. The way that Reclaim Your Inner Throne, first of all, addresses this, the solutions that it brings to the table, and the unique language with which it approaches this, especially geared towards men, I think is totally unique, and it's one of the best ways that I've ever encountered, and I've seen a lot.
Thank you for that. So I want to dig a little bit into you, Tony, because you're such an interesting guy, and we're going to be having many of these conversations. And there are some questions that I want to return to because they're just these nice, juicy questions. So one of the questions that I want to ask you today is, what is one really big challenge that you've had to face and overcome in your life?
The many. I would say probably the most profound challenge I've had to face in my life was actually raising my children. I have two children. I was very young when I became a parent. I was 26 years old when I had my son and 28 when I had my daughter. And in them growing up, seeing them develop and grow made me realize that I wasn't very, very well equipped to be their parent. I had a lot of growing up to do myself. And I think that the big challenge for me was being a great parent to them, as well as being a great parent to myself at the same time.
That is a challenge.
Yeah. And as they were evolving, they go from, little babies to little toddlers, and then to, young people. They start going to school, adolescence, puberty, the teenage years, leaving home. We've been through all of those stages kind of together. And I've had the opportunity to revisit those stages when I went through them as a child for the first time, but to fill in the gaps and to make some adjustments to my own foundation. And at times it's been very difficult. It's been very, very challenging, but ultimately it's been probably the accomplishment that I'm really, really proud of. One of them. Yeah. One of the very, very best.
Love hearing that. I don't know your kids, but I have seen some pictures, and yeah.
No, I'm very proud. They're great.
Yeah, you're a proud papa. Yeah. Hope I get to meet them someday.
You will.
So you're a little bit of a Facebook sensation, Mr. Fonderson. So you have, in preparation for the launch of your book, you've created some videos, and I think when we're setting out to become what I call an evolutionary entrepreneur, which could be being an author in your case, ultimately we all want to impact the world with our work.
Indeed, yeah.
And you've had millions of views on your videos, and you have a lot of fans waiting for your book. And one of the things that I know, having been in this business for a while, of delivering sort of my heart's passion to the world, or like what I believe the most in, is that it can get very personal. And I'm curious what it's like to have all of these people who have loved your videos be waiting in anticipation for your book. Is it bringing anything up in you?
Well, it's a blessing. It's a big blessing, and obviously, I'm really, really flattered. I had absolutely no idea that the message that I was putting out there would resonate with so many people across so many parts of the world. So it's really been pretty breathtaking. We've had over 2 million views in just under 8 months, and
from that, those are crazy numbers for pretty much everyone.
I know that. I mean, yeah, I really don't know what to say. At first, I was very excited, just to get 100 views, and as the counter started climbing and climbing, and I think the next video release was much more successful. Then we had another video which was released, I think, on communication, which really, really struck a nerve. Which was then just—
Is that the one with the guy falling forwards?
Yeah, which really blew up.
I
think that's been seen over 600,000 times, and it's been liked over 1,500 times. I mean, but what I try to show is not just showcasing my work, but I'm trying to speak about challenges that people face every single day.
Yes.
I've talked about communication. I've talked about setting good boundaries. I've talked about, people who are very, very direct and who are, how can I say, unpopular because of that. I've touched on many different subjects on love.
I think I am in that category sometimes.
Well, it's not very easy sometimes. Sometimes speaking the truth doesn't give you any reward. Sometimes it actually gets you attacked, but the truth needs to be told.
Yeah.
And sometimes the messenger does get shot, which is an unfortunate side effect. But sometimes the message is so important that it's worth you standing out there and communicating it. Despite my, apparent success, I've also been the target of some really, really negative remarks and nasty things. But, it comes with the territory, I suppose. Yeah. You can't please everyone all the time. And as you said before, there are poles. So if you have a positive pole, there will always be a negative pole, to counterbalance it. Basically you have darkness and then the light comes. So we live in a world of contrast and a world of polarities, and that manifests itself in good things and in bad things. Life is not only, the sweet side of life. There are very, very rough, challenging, tough parts of life. And I want to share the benefit of what I've learned and what I've discovered in my life so far on handling not just the good parts, but also handling the difficult times. What do you do when, you make your best effort and you don't get rewarded? What do you do when the people who are supposed to love you turn against you? What do you do when you're falsely accused of doing something or being someone that you're not? Yes. Those are situations which millions and millions of people, millions and millions of men and women, and unfortunately children face every single day. And they need help, they need support. And I like to speak to such issues, and I like to help to bring a little bit of brightness in those dark places also.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Tony. And I'm so excited that you are doing that, because the internet is a big place and the world is a big place, and there's a lot of voices out there that are vying for attention. And knowing you through the experience of round 10, I'm just cheering you on, man, because I know that the world needs more of Tony Fonderson.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. It really does. And I want to ask you to talk a little bit more about Reclaiming Your Throne, being that this is the Powerful Conversations with Reclaiming Your Throne alumni. What did you experience there? And how did it impact your life and work?
I learned many lessons from Reclaiming Your Throne, probably too numerous to actually list in the short time that we have here. But one thing I would really like to highlight was the courage and the boldness to go where we do not normally want to go. As men, culture and society actually sets us up to be strong, to be powerful, to be successful, to be leaders, to show all of these so-called positive aspects. But we also have pain points. We also have a huge shadow parts of us that we try to disown, parts of us that we try to deny, and parts of us that we find really, really challenging, so that we tend to neglect those parts of our psyche in favor of the more positive components of our lives.
Yeah.
What I learned in Reclaim Your Inner Throne was how to actually turn around and actually face my fears, face my shadows, and not just face them from an aggressive stance that I'm going to overcome and conquer them, but to actually look at them, to enter into dialogue with those parts of me which I've been denying and I've been disowning, and to actually look for the gifts that they bring to me and to integrate that into my life. So after the 12 weeks of Reclaim Your Inner Throne, I can say without any shred of doubt that I'm a much more balanced, a much more confident, and a much more integrated human being. I know myself, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and the ugly parts. And I know that I do not need to hide, nor do I need to project the parts of myself which I previously found unacceptable. I've learned to accept all of me, and in accepting all of me, I believe it's made me accept more and more of other people. So I'm a much more open-minded, balanced, and integrated person in the way I deal with my friends and the people who I don't even know. And this has also informed my writing. I've changed the flavor and the tone of the way I present aspects in my book because of what I learned.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautifully put. And it speaks to the insight that the more we face the parts of us that we don't like, the more we can accept them when they show up in other people. Yeah. And this is essentially what makes us a king, I believe. And that's why you are the first king that we're sitting with on this show.
I'm so honored. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah. Great to have you here.
Reclaim Your Inner Throne, it's so gratifying, and it's such an uplifting program because it teaches men how to access all of their resources, and it shows you when to actually bring up resource. So you know in what context to bring up things. Take, for example, anger. In a lot of societies, or in lots of parts of society, anger is seen as a very, very negative thing.
Yes.
And anger from a man is especially frowned upon by large sections of society.
I agree.
Yeah. But the thing is, I don't believe that it's right for you to just actually eliminate or try to suppress anger under all circumstances. Mm-hmm. It is a human emotion, and it does have a place in our lives in the right context at the appropriate place and time. You see, for example, when a baby is born, a baby may cry because it has a need that hasn't been met. And if the caregiver doesn't respond to the baby's need, the baby will cry more insistently and with anger. Yeah. That anger is there to say that, listen, I have a need. I need this need to get met. And it's a signal to notify the people around the baby that it has a need which needs to get met.
Exactly.
And basically, if that baby, every time it cries insistently because it's wet or it's hungry or it's uncomfortable, if that need gets ignored, basically that baby might actually suppress that need as a baby and then go through life growing up thinking wrongly that their needs cannot get met and suppressing their anger. And when that anger comes out, because it inevitably does, it'll come out in a very explosive, inappropriate, and a very, very unhelpful way. So as a man, as any human being, I believe that we all need to have a relationship with concepts such as our anger, our passion, our sexuality, our fire, our honesty. All of these so-called thorny issues, we shouldn't shy away from them. We should treat them with the respect that they deserve and learn to master them so that they do not master us. And we do that so artfully in Reclaim Your Inner Throne.
I'm so glad you bring this up, and this could be the start of another show. Though this attempt of domesticating people that I think is very prevalent in our culture right now, and it's happening to both men and women. I believe it's like the wildness is in a way driven out of us for various reasons. But what I see so often, Tony, and as you also point out, is that this wildness, this anger is exiled from men, and for reasons that we don't need to go into now. But I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, and 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 then actually we become less able to be a force for good in the world, much less able, because the force of the power and the anger goes underground and starts coming out in shadow.
Yeah.
And that's when people pick up a gun and go and shoot up a high school.
Unfortunately, we have so many examples of such incidents, which is just really, really tragic.
Yeah.
If not, basically, we should be in control, basically, of all of the passions, all of the energies running into us.
Yes.
And if the energies in us, including things like anger, are allowed, are suppressed and allowed to go underground and run wild, they can be very destructive, not just to ourselves, but to others. And, and also in society, even we may be very, very peaceful and pacific people, but society has people who are not. And I think it's better for us to learn how to deal with people who are not like us in a productive and in a win-win way. Otherwise, we'll be ill-prepared for the challenges in life.
Yeah.
And we as men, we need to actually take some leadership and step up and say, look, there is a problem. Let us address that problem. Let's not deny that there isn't a problem, or let's not call problem A problem C. Let's say A is A and let's address it so that, for the benefit of us and for the benefit of society.
Yeah. Yes, good. I think this is one of the things that we really will have to grapple with as a society and a culture moving forwards, is that we need to start talking fondly and highly of men with power.
Indeed.
Right? These days it's lumped into narratives of the patriarchy and oppression. But if all of the good men with hearts, wonderful, beautiful hearts in this world, are internalizing the idea that they shouldn't be powerful, then we are screwed.
No, we need power, we need change. We don't need tyrants,
Exactly.
We don't need sadists, we don't need cruelty, we don't need weak people who are, you don't take a child and give that child a flamethrower because the child is not equipped to handle a flamethrower.
Yeah.
Fire can be very, very useful, but fire in the wrong hands can be extremely destructive. We need to have human beings who are well equipped to handle all the challenges in life. And that involves, dealing with things like concepts such as power in a healthy, productive way that is beneficial for everyone, not just for our own self-serving interests.
Yeah, so I hope you're listening, men out there. Rise in your power, up-level your life. It's necessary.
Indeed.
So talking about those men, what is one thing that you've learned in life, Tony, that you want to pass on to the men who are watching?
One thing. I'm going to be cheeky here and I'm going to give them two lessons. Two things which I think are fundamental that every man should think deeply about. Every man needs to be able to handle, or needs to think very, 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 very clearly and carefully about how they're going to handle two critical resources. First resource that a man needs to know how to handle is the resource of time. How you spend your time, how you invest your time will have a massive effect on yourself, a massive effect on the people who you love, and a massive effect on the people beyond that, on society.
Yeah.
We are not here forever. We're born, we live, and then we pass away and we die. In between our birth and the day that we close our eyes for the last time, all we have is time. We need to be very, very deliberate about how we spend our energy and how we spend our time as men. Because if you spend your time productively, you can leverage that. You can do one good thing, and that good thing has a multiplicative effect on many, many different people throughout the world. Or on the other side of the equation, you can do one silly thing, and that silly thing can have a really, really destructive, negative effect on you and on many other people in the world. Whether what you do with your time is good or destructive is a decision. And it's a conscious decision that many men should and must take. So that's one lesson that I've learned, which I'd like to pass on to your listeners. Be very, very deliberate about what you do with your time. It's a very finite resource and a very, very powerful one. The next piece of advice...
Oh, you have another one.
which probably is a little bit more controversial.
Okay.
Is, all men have their life force, and your life force is encoded in your DNA. And that's your life force, your DNA is encoded essentially in your sperm. I would say every man should think very hard and very, very careful about what I'm going to say. Be very, very deliberate about the person who is going to be the mother of your children. Do not let that decision about who is going to be the mother of your children to chance. I know it's quite controversial, but I really, really strongly believe in this. Simply because the mother of your child or your children, they will carry your precious sperm, your life force, your DNA in their bodies. They will nurture that for 9 months, and they will take care of that child. They'll suckle that child. They will be the first call, the first caregiver of that child. And if you wish your descendants to have the best possible start in life, of course, you wish your descendants to have the best possible mother in life, of course. So I would say that if you want to have a child, or if you're thinking about it, take some time, don't let that be a random decision. Make a really, really good choice about who you're going to have a child with, because you can enlighten the world that way through the combination of the child that you have with this lady, or you can basically waste your life, waste their lives, and waste a lot of people's time too. So your two resources, your time.
Wow.
And
Thank you, Tony. Powerful. And I hear in both of those the power of intention. So to be an intentional man is another way of delivering that message, I believe. Yes. Hey, Tony, thank you so much for coming today. Where can the viewers find out more about you?
Oh, you can find out more about me at my website, worldwideweb.tonyfonderson.com. But I've got a massive presence on Facebook. So if you just go into facebook.com/Tony Fonderson in one word, you'll find me there. And I'm going to be releasing a lot more material. I've got lots of things which I plan to release before the end of the year. And my book is going to go to the editor for hopefully the final edit early December. So yeah, very, very soon. Watch this space.
Very exciting. Well, I certainly look forward to seeing what more comes from your direction in the rest of 2019 and the years coming forward or coming up. So yeah, thank you so much, Tony, for your work and for your time today, for trusting us and reclaiming your throne and allowing us to be a part of your journey and your work. And it's been a total pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ivan. I've really, really enjoyed this interview. And I must say I'm a very, very, very happy graduate of the Reclaim Your Inner Throne program. I look forward to meeting other kings who emerge from that program, and more power to you. Thank you so much for doing this work. It's very powerful.
Thank you. This has been Sitting with Kings. I'm Ivan Figenskar-Shellum, founder of Reclaim Your Inner Throne. See you next time.